Yes, sir. Party people, let's go. High noon. Waiting on my dude Antonio to check in, man. Another big week. This gonna be our regular time, good people. We gonna do it right. A lot of NBA talk, last dance. I got my expert. He gonna come in. He's gonna join us, give you the scoop, the inside perspective. Let's do it. Let's do it. Inbox me. Inbox me. Let's do some work. I always looking for that type work right there. Oh, John Dean, let me bring my boy in. Big dog.
What's going on, family? How you
What's
doing?
happening, baby?
I'm here, brother. I'm
Hey
doing
man.
well. How you doing?
Hey, doing good, man. How your week been, man? Another,
It,
another COVID-19 week in the books, baby.
oh man, it's been, we it's funny, man. These times it's crazy because like with these times you just be so happy just to be healthy, right? And
Right, right,
and
right.
at the same time, I was just saying to a friend of mine yesterday, I was just saying how like even though you have to be happy to be healthy, at the same time it's you want to make sure that like say with our jobs or things of that nature, because we're so fortunate to be healthy, sometimes we let them off the hook, right? Because I'm just so happy I have a job. So
Right,
you start
right,
devaluing
right.
yourself a little bit. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
But it make good sense. It make good sense.
So, we have to here, we just got to be, careful, like just making sure that it's like I said, we are being thankful, but also too, just making sure that, like I was saying to you last week, accountability is the best ability. So we have to allow ourselves to be accountable. And then also too, if we're striving for that greatness, we got to hold other people accountable. And,
Without a doubt.
you know,
Without a doubt, man.
so
Without a doubt. Always, and man, your words, man. Boy, I'm telling you, boy, you like you got a hammer. You know how to drive that point home, man. I appreciate that. So we're gonna start with this, Tonio. I'm not in the list. I'm a guy. I'm not in the list. You're not gonna suck me in and get me to argue about a list.
exactly.
But ESPN, they kind of got me. They kind of got me because they dropped their top 74 NBA players of all time. Listen, it's always debatable, always. But
Always.
when I saw the disrespect of Isaiah Thomas, you know, being behind, being behind a Steve Nash, can you just remind the people like, listen, I know during this last dance move in, Isaiah been getting beat up, but can you kind of help the people out for those who forgot and those in the back? The type player Isaiah Thomas was, man, it's starting to get out of hand.
It really is. I mean, when you start looking at this, I'm gonna say this, Maceo. And first off, man, again, I always tell you this. I appreciate sharing your platform with you, man. Like this is great. This fellowship that we're building, this brotherhood, man, it's
Without a
great,
doubt.
man, and,
Without a
and
doubt.
it's needed. So back to what you were saying about Isaiah. Even when you look at the MVP award, right? Like it kind of changes as to are we gonna give it to the best player in the league? Or are
Right.
we gonna make it a lifetime achievement award this year, or is it gonna be a popularity contest?
Right.
Like so, even with that award, it changes. So when you start seeing these all-time lists, it's just like the MVP award, right? Like and people, and even when you start looking at Isaiah, you start looking at Kareem, it's the same thing, right? Like my brother, one of my teammates is watching us, and we were having this discussion about a guy like Kareem and
Right.
how his greatness sometimes gets overlooked because it's a popularity contest,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right.
with Isaiah, because the narrative out there is he was a hard guy to get along with and things of
Yeah.
that nature,
Yeah.
right? It's people start to disrespect the player, and and I said this before, and I'll say this again, like when you start looking at playing in the league, so you got guys like Kevin Durant, LeBron, Anthony Davis, etc. These guys are 6'9" and above and can do all the things that I can do as a 6'1" guy.
Right.
Right? So when you are trying to dominate the league and go through the greats that Isaiah went through to win titles, and you are his size, man, a lot of people just aren't going to like you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because, and Jordan alluded to it, the competitive nature that it takes to get to that level of greatness, a lot of times people aren't going to like you. Well, okay, here's a 6'1" guy trying to do the same thing. So a lot of people aren't going, and you know, a good kind of current comparison is Chris Paul.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like Chris Paul is on now, granted he has won titles. I'm not comparing them as players. I'm comparing them more so as point guards who have achieved some greatness that guys will say is difficult to play with them, or they rub people the wrong way. To do what they have to do, man, you know, is not going to be a lot of people that you know like you. And then the other thing I'll say about Isaiah, because I can say this forever. The other thing I'll say about Isaiah as well is, in order to win titles, this dude morphed his game, because the guy that was, you know, basically almost doing the spider drill in the game, the figure 8 dribble in the game on guys, when he started competing for titles, Maceo, that was gone. Right? He sacrificed a little bit of his game for the betterment of the team.
Betterment of the team.
Right. Because that dude, when he first came in, oh, man. Right?
And, you know, it's so funny, Antonio, because I think what gets lost in all this, and you brought up a good point, is like, what narrative are we using? Well, first, let me go back to this. Like, who doing the voting? Like, so to me, I would say, for the most part, most people who need to be on these panels are guys who were able to see, like, everybody in these eras, like was able to see Wilt, was able to see Bill. So a lot of our older writers and a lot of older people who are part of the media, because like I say, younger guys, man, Steph this or KD that, or, you know, they hadn't seen, like, they've never seen Kareem play. So it's like, well, Kareem is this. Well, how do you know when you hadn't seen him play?
You haven't seen him play. No question. No question. And the other thing, too, about going back on that point that you were saying about Isaiah is oftentimes, and you know, I'm not trying to pull anybody's card here, but oftentimes people don't have an appreciation for that sacrifice and the things that you have to do to be great, Maceo, because they never step between the lines, right? So oftentimes you have people voting that have never, and it's not all of them, but some of them that vote actually start being writers because they weren't good enough to play at any level, right? So with that being said, they don't appreciate what it takes when you get in between those lines and the sacrifice, all those things that it takes to make a team work. So they just write about their opinions and all those things, and it's coming from a perspective of somebody that's never really been in between those lines and understands what it takes to compete at that level. And so oftentimes they're covering the sports. Oftentimes they're the talking heads. So all of us are going to them to shape our opinions. And they're talking about things and they've never been there before.
Because to me, so always the biggest hang up, and we're starting to do it in every sport, because everybody want to bring up, well, how many rings? Well, okay, so if you're going by that, then Isaiah got to be over Steve Nash anyway.
It's no question.
If that's the narrative that we're trying to push, because every now and then when it's a debate and you hit a fact, I hit a fact. Well, how many rings he got? And I hate that argument so much, because even so, my dad grew up in Boston, and he always talks about, and this is what he always says about Bill Russell. He says Bill Russell was the greatest team player. He wasn't always the best player, but he was so smart. His basketball IQ was so high. That's why they were able to achieve all those championships, because he didn't never really just go dominate. But he, like you just talked about earlier, he sacrificed so much of his game. Like this, when he blocked the shot that my dad told me, you see guys like, get that out of here. Bill would get the block, but he would tap it,
keep it in play
to a teammate, or
Yep.
he would just tap it enough to get the rebound, and now he's starting offense. So it's a big difference.
No question, no doubt. And and we touched on this last week as well. The other thing is when you start grading and you start bringing championships into it, now you're talking about organizations,
right?
And you're graded because like I think I was saying this last week to someone that the Lakers win the title in '82, and then all of a sudden end up with the first pick in the draft after they win the ring and take big game James, right? So like that's organizational stuff,
right?
And like when you look at in your city, Maceo, when you look at Dominique, it's not his fault that the organization did not acquire other great players, whether that's free agency, whatever the case may be, because they were good enough where they probably weren't going to be drafted high. So they needed to
always going to be middle of the road.
Exactly.
Always middle of the road.
Exactly. So trades, free agency, they needed to get at least one more great player with Dominique. That's not his fault, right? And so like, and then to your point, like you said, like your dad said about Russell, if you want to grade the guys by championships, then Russell is better than everybody.
Hands down.
And it's not even close, right? And so you, all of those things, and then it's funny, I'll say this about Russell and I'll let it go. The school that I played at and graduated from, Brandeis University, is in Boston. Mm-hmm. And while we were there playing, this is in the late 90s, I would say early 2000s, while we were finishing up, while we were there, here is Bill Russell in that conversation for the GOAT, the greatest winner of all time.
Right.
And in team sports, he's the greatest winner of all time. Right.
No doubt about it.
And we're in a sports crazed city, Maceo, and there was nothing in the city of Boston named after Bill Russell while we were there.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Crazy.
So now when you come out of the airport, you got the A.Williams Bridge. Great player, right? Yeah. But you got the A.Williams Bridge. You got all of these different things that are, because this is a sports crazed city. And A.Williams was bigger than, he was an advocate off the diamond, right? Fought for the country, fought for our rights, was upset that the Boston Red Sox, I can tell you a story from working with him. There was a tryout, and there were players that were trying out in the outfield. Mm-hmm. And this is why they changed the name of Yawkey Way, where it used to be, or on Fenway, where Fenway Park is. Okay. The Yawkey family used to own the Red Sox. Okay. So there was a tryout. And A.Williams was tight about this for a long time because there was nobody in the stands but the Yawkey family and people that were close to them. Wow. And somebody said that word that upsets us, right? Yeah. And one of those players walked off the field when that was, and who knows who said it. Right. But one of those players walked off the field during the tryout. And A.Williams was tight about this because you know who one of those players was? Jackie Robinson. Mm. So they could have put me out there in the outfield. That would have been the greatest outfield of all time. Right. So, so with that being said, just going back to Russell, just tying it to him. And now, there are things in the city that commemorate his greatness and all that he stood for. But, it's these lists are always subjective. It's always a lot of people talking that sometimes they haven't played, right? And because even if you look at Steve Nash, Steve Nash is I don't think anybody would rate Steve Nash going back to how subjective these are. And Steve Nash is awesome. He's great. Let's not get that twisted.
And that's what I was saying. I'm not knocking Steve Nash, but just optic wise, I know Isaiah Thomas was a better basketball player.
It's no question. So to your point, when you start looking at how subjective the list is, how subjective the MVP is, Steve Nash has 2 MVPs. Kobe and Shaq only have 1. They have 2 collectively, 1 individually. Right. And he's got more MVPs than Kobe and Shaq.
Right.
right? The
Right.
same amount of MVPs as Kobe and Shaq combined,
Right.
right?
And it's funny. How does that even sound?
You know, and again, like you said, we are not disparaging Steve Nash.
No, not at
right?
all.
Like,
No,
incredible player.
not at all.
Incredible player. But it's just these awards are just, you know, and these lists are so subjective. And I think some of it too, especially now, Maceo, I think some of it too is clickbait, right? To get us talking.
Of course.
And yeah.
And that's why I try not to get, so that's why I try not to even get worked up. But I just be like, you know what? They're looking for, you know, they're looking for that. I'm not gonna give it to them.
Right. No doubt.
I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm not gonna go crazy.
No doubt. No question.
But another thing, and I want you with your NBA knowledge, expertise, just explain why Tim Duncan doesn't get the love that he deserves out here in these NBA streets. Just help us out. Help us out.
Again, man, like I think a guy that just was not overly concerned about branding. He just wanted to hoop, right? And when he was honored and inducted into the Hall of Fame, I did a whole series, Maceo, on the players that got inducted in the Hall of Fame. And I talked about some of the things that might be underappreciated about these guys.
Okay.
Right? And so one of the things that, because Tim Duncan was so stoic, people get it twisted and think that he wasn't passionate.
Right.
You look at his eyes, man, when he's playing, Maceo, his eyes are like that big, right?
Always locked in.
No question.
Always locked in.
So when you look at him, even though dude was not overly demonstrative, I remember a time, you know, him and KG had a rivalry. And I remember a time when they were playing in the playoffs when KG was in Minnesota. And KG gets face-to-face with him and saying what KG is saying, right? And shout out to KG, because I love KG, because big guys don't have to love the game and be passionate about the game like I was. He was married to that thing, right?
Yeah,
he was married to that thing. So shout out to him. But when you watch them face-to-face, KG is saying what he's saying, and Duncan is looking at him and laughing.
Yeah, like, bro.
And proceeded to go to work.
You don't want these problems.
You don't want these, right? And
everybody must be on IG today. Everybody must be on IG.
Right.
So yeah, you're saying Tim Duncan looked at KG and was like, nah, you don't want these problems.
Yeah, these aren't, you know, like, you can do all that, but watch this, right?
Yeah.
And so because he wasn't very demonstrative and, you know, outward and want to do commercials and, you know, all that stuff, man, like, I think people sort of disrespect what he's accomplished. And the other thing, off the floor, man, like, you know, I'll say this, Maceo, the Spurs are incredible. They're a great organization in terms of what they do.
Right.
But they now, throughout basketball, we have the Spurs way. People talk about that, right?
Right.
Very communal, all about sacrifice,
right.
all those different things. But that was set because they were able to draft within 10 years, 87 and 97, 2 Hall of Fame caliber talents. Not only Hall of Fame caliber talents, but they both had deferential personalities. They were both willing to defer and to share. So when you do that, you can set your organizational principles off of that. So Tim Duncan is part of the reason why they were able to set those principles that power their organization even today. So people don't look at the impact of this dude, man. And you know, and he was, man, that dude was incredible, you know. And everybody before him, and you know this, brother, before him, and he's still in this conversation, but before him, people would say that Kevin McHale may have had the greatest footwork on the block of all time. Right. Man, when Duncan came, woo.
Man, look, when your nickname, the big fundamental,
say no more.
You know what I'm saying? Bank shot, his pump fake. The things this guy did, like I say, and I understand he wasn't flashy. He didn't have a shoe deal. You know what I'm saying? He didn't get in trouble. Like, we didn't see no story where he done kicked some girl. Like, he kicked the wife out the house. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but he won, like, and he was consistent all the way through.
Man, that dude was, Maceo, that dude was so incredible, man. And as a player, and again, like, because his stuff was so based in those fundamentals, one of the statements I like to say is native to the platform, right? So he was native to that platform of success because it was based in fundamentals. He could duplicate that and do it over and over and over again because it wasn't based on, I'm just going through the lane and just dunking on people and all that stuff. No question. Those silver foams were fired. It's one of my face. Yeah, they were crazy. It's no question. So with that, I mean, he was just able to just do it over and over and over again. And even when he was getting older in age and he may not have been as athletic as he once used to be, he was still able to do it. And man, and dude was just so incredible, man. And he let other people, because he was so deferential, other people were allowed to be great as well and be the best version of themselves because Tim was so into sharing the stage. You know, man,
I like that point you made. You talk about his attitude and being able to bring these guys. I mean, they go get a Tony Parker, go get a Ginobili, to go get a young Kawhi. Man. they just, and how about Kawhi, right? You know, and we talk about this a lot, right? When you look at guys and they become greats, and obviously Kawhi is top 5 in the league, top 5 in the world. But part of the reason why he was able to attain that was because of his situation, right? Coming in, being around those guys, looking and learning how to be a pro, you know, and so he learned all that, and that's something that a lot of players, when they come into the league, that's not a luxury that they have, right? And also, Kawhi had the right disposition as well. He was willing to learn, right? And hey, I don't have all the answers. Let me sit back and learn what these guys are doing and how they approach it. And you know, and that's a hard line to walk, Maceo, because these dudes are doing something that only 470 people in the world do. So it's hard, back to what we're saying about Isaiah, it's hard to be humble and be confident at the same time. Fine
right?
line.
It's a fine line, man. And you can't be too far on either side of that line.
Right.
You know, you can't be too confident, especially if you haven't proven your greatness yet. You can't be overly confident, and you can't be overly deferential either, where you just let cats buffalo you all. You can't do that either.
Yeah.
You know, and Steve Kerr talked about that with Mike, right? Like, hey, man, like, you know, you might dot my eye, bro. It's like, again, either I'm going to whoop you or you going to whoop me.
Right. But we're going to get it on. You're not from now. You're not going to keep doing me like that.
Exactly.
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 Let me a name, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because we've had this conversation a lot in our studio, just in conversation. And I just want to get your thoughts on this guy. One, I was shocked he was left off this top 74 list, and the young fella's name is Dwight Howard. Your thoughts on Dwight? Because so I'm just telling you this, Tonio. I think when all is said and done, I think Dwight is going to be a Hall of Famer.
No, it's no question.
We get arguments here that we tripping. Talk to the people, man. Tonio, talk to the people.
Man, Dwight Howard is, and again, this is that line of being confident and being overly confident, right? That line. And he started to get a little bit too far on one side of that line, right? And so it affected some of the other areas of his game, because with Dwight Howard, you can literally, what Orlando did was, and you can look this up, when he was in Orlando, when he led them in shot attempts in the playoff series, they were something like 2-5.
Right.
But when he didn't lead them in shot attempts in the playoff series, they were something like 6-2.
Right.
Right?
Right.
This dude can control a game defensively and on the boards, right? He can control a game. And then the other thing that he did as well, Maceo, is like when people talk about let me know when you on. Okay.
Here we go. We good.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on in the world today.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Everybody else. So here, let me say this. So the other thing about Dwight Howard is when you talk about stretching defenses as a big, people always attribute it to shooting. It's always shooting when they talk about stretching defenses. Right. Well, you know where else you can stretch a defense at, Maceo? Running the floor. Because when you rim run, that other big has got to honor that. Somebody's got to honor that.
He got to get out too.
Exactly. So when this dude, man, used to block a shot or get a defensive rebound and outlet it and be the first, like Shaq used to do that in his prime with the Lakers. Right. I got this thing off the board, and I'm gonna be the first person down the floor finishing this thing. Right. When this dude used to do that, and he's now said that, he said that now in his second go around with the Lakers, I got away from that. I got away from being who I am.
Right.
But when this dude was who he was, leading the league in rebounding, no problem. Leading the league in blocks, no problem. Multiple times. Like, this is stuff that Shaq hasn't done. Right. And this is stuff that Shaq hasn't done. Right. And so to your point, man, it is no question that this dude is a Hall of Famer. It's no question, man. And because of and the other thing too, and I don't want to get messy when I say this, Maceo, but I want to say this so all of our people, especially young people, know this. When you're trying to play this game and you're at that level, you have to make sure that when you want to get to that accountability, again, accountability is the best ability, right? To the best of your ability, all of your off the court manners, all of your off the court matters have to be in order. They have to be in order. So the other thing is when you look at Dwight and you look at the multiple situations with, and then now he takes care of his children, but the multiple situations with, that takes away, because in order to do something with that 470 people do, you have to be insanely focused. Insanely focused. And so you can't have things that are taking your focus away. So he was there. I'm sure there were some things that were taking his focus away.
Majorly.
Right? Majorly. And so he is now understanding that and getting back to who he is. And, you know, you saw that when he's playing with the Lakers, man, like him at the 5 and AD at the 4, when they were playing those lineups, man, like, you weren't getting a rebound, right? Like, it's just, man.
The length of that, when they go that I call it tree squad, the athleticism and being able to keep AD where he really wants to be at that 4, that lineup was crazy. That was
crazy, man. It's crazy. You know, it's crazy. So with that, you know, being said, like, that dude is, I think to your point, I think is a travesty if people don't understand how good that dude is, how good he was, man.
It's a real argument down here at ATL, man. It's like, it's people who like, man, no way he'll Hall of Fame. I'm like, are y'all crazy?
Man, you know, and you know, the other thing too, to your point, that, and this is where I commend him, and granted, also it's a function of the technology as well, but I commend him for this. This dude has had back issues. Right? Yeah. And we know what back issues do. Ask Larry Johnson what back issues do.
Boy.
Right? Ask Larry Johnson. Right? And man, if he didn't have back issues, right? And man, whoo. and you know, he's a cat too, for me, Maceo, that doesn't get credit for. Now we see guys, like example, dunking on people and yelling and things like that. And we remember when he was doing that.
Yeah, he was doing that at UNLV.
And you remember when he was doing that, people were like, man, what is he doing? He changed the game.
Right.
Yeah. He changed the game, man. And you know, like what, and everybody talks about the Fab Five, as rightfully so in terms of like representing us.
Yeah.
right? They were
Trendsetters.
representing us. And before the Fab Five, it was UNLV.
Yeah.
They were representing us.
Anderson
right?
Hunt in that corner, boy. Anderson Hunt in that corner.
No
Boy.
question. No question, man. And in the corner, they're catching lives, right? They're catching lives.
Off that wing, yeah.
Man. So like them, and then obviously before them, it was Georgetown, right? Like they represented us.
Right.
They were, we were standing on their shoulders. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
We were standing on their shoulders. Yeah. So, you know, back issues, man, are just, no question.
The lab,
the lab 12.
I can remember toward the end, the Celtics would come to town, and Larry Bird had to lay on the floor. Couldn't sit in the chair. He laid on the floor, on his stomach, to keep his back stretched out. I still can, like, see that, and just like, and my dad would always be like, boy, my dad loved Larry Bird. He like, hey, man, it's cold. That's cold white boy right there, man. That's
man.
Cold.
He's the truth, man. Yeah, he was the truth, man. He was the truth. You know, and like you said, man, like those back issues are, you know, and the first team that I loved growing up, the first team that I loved in basketball were the Lakers. And of course, right? And so I hated Larry Bird.
Yeah.
You know, and because again, as I'm being indoctrinated in basketball, and you know, the first team I love, the Lakers, you can't like Larry Bird, right? And,
right.
And as a kid, I didn't understand that. I was a kid, right? But of course, as I got older and got into this thing myself, and you know, really started understanding the game for the game, like, man, that dude, man, you know. I mean, because one of the things to me, Maceo, when you started talking about him, brother, is like he averaged 10 rebounds for his career from the three. Yeah. So all the scoring, all the shooting, yeah. But he's 10 rebounds a game from the three. Yeah. Right? How many threes giving you 10 rebounds a game?
No,
right?
Because they're running out. They running out. And a crazy stat, I should have known this, but I was deep diving one day. Like, the dude only averaged 2 3-point attempts a game.
Crazy, man.
Like, I read it, and I was like, I'm reading this wrong. I started looking up. I started calling people, dude, he only attempted 2 3-pointers a game. And which is like, because you can remember nights he had 40, 35. And
no doubt.
They were mid-range.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Like cooking dudes. You know, Maceo, telling dudes, look, this is what I'm about to do.
This one, I'm finna go in this corner, shoot this 3 for the win. Like, stop.
Just telling cats, man. Like, I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy, man. Like, yeah, you know, because even when you look at him, you look at like Reggie Miller being second all time in threes, and of course Ray Allen's passed him, but by a couple hundred now. But Ray Allen was fortunate enough to the beginner parts of his career, he was still playing in the era where they didn't quote unquote feature the three, right?
Slashing and yoke. People forget Ray Allen was a slasher and would yoke on you.
Hey, to your point, man, Ray Allen, Maceo, Ray Allen had me doing calf raises. Because his calves were like, yeah. Man, I was like, let me get on. He had me doing calf raises, man.
Ringy. Yeah. Hey, Ray Allen was very springy. Very.
And so to your point, you know, to your point, he also played in the era. So once he started getting to his prime, to the end of his career, now he's in the 3-point era. So great shooter, but you know, when you look at Reggie Miller, most of his career was in the era where they weren't featuring threes. Right. And man, like, so yeah, like, so for Bird to average only, man, today, if and I know people get, you know, there's again clickbait, man, LeBron would have done whatever. Of course LeBron would have done whatever he was going to do in any era, right?
Right.
Of course,
Yeah.
right?
Freak,
You know,
freak. Y'all, you're a freak, everybody.
right. It's no, you know, of course he would have. So did Oscar Robinson, right? So of course LeBron. I mean, it's, you know, so people, like you said, I don't like to get into that as well.
Yeah.
And the other reason why I don't like to get into it is the cultural stuff, man, because like it just pits people against each other.
Right.
And
Right.
I just don't I don't I just don't like it, man. I don't like it.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I told you what we're gonna do every week, I'm gonna give you a player and I want you to, you know, it's guys who I was kind of like, and they made me wrong. So of course
we all are like that though.
I got to start with Trae Young. So listen, I had knockdown drag outs like, why are we like, why his name keep coming up? Why are we gonna draft this guy? Like, man, we tripping. We don't need him. Hawks draft him. I'm every day like, listen, Trae won me over, and I had to go apologize. So Trae had got to the point where he would start looking at me like,
here you go.
he'll think I was supposed to be here. I'm like,
Yeah.
so I had to find one day. I finally like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right.
What did I miss about Trae Young?
Well, you know, first thing, man, is let me say this, family. From a scouting perspective, none of this stuff is exact. This is
right.
an inexact, subjective business, and you're projecting, right?
Right.
So there have been a bunch of guys that I've been right about that were guys that I liked, and you know they've proven me right, right? But there have also been a bunch of guys that I liked that didn't do what I thought they would do, and vice versa. Guy, I mean, I don't think he's going to be that good, and you know, here we go. And again, one of the things when we're evaluating guys is the situation, right?
Right.
It's the situation, the system that they run, who are the teammates. All of these things impact a player's greatness. You know, like most guys aren't LeBron, where it's like, man, it just don't matter, right? Or Mike, or, you know, it's just not a lot of guys like that. So most of them, their greatness is based on the situation. Who are the teammates? How does the coach use you? All of those different things. So when you look at him, one of the things, now I actually liked him when he was coming out. I liked him. And, you know, because the NBA is obviously a pick and roll league. And when I was watching him at Oklahoma, he was one of the best pick and roll dudes that I've probably seen in the last 10 years. And because his greatest attribute is actually passing.
Yeah.
That's his greatest skill, right?
Again, another thing I really didn't understand, because so every time I watch him at Oklahoma, I'm just like, he just jacking up the ball.
Yeah.
Again,
that's his greatest skill, man. So he can, and the fact that since he can pass and the fact that he can shoot, it makes him deadly in the pick and roll because defensively you can't go under on him.
Right.
He'll stick it, right? So then if you come out hard on him, hedge on him, double ice him, that's, you know, doubling ice him, he can just find the open guy, right? So he's incredible in the pick and roll, and he plays with pace. So he can set you up. He can set you up by changing speeds. So all those things make him great in the pick and roll, right? So I liked him from that standpoint. The other reason why I liked him as well is, and we were talking about this last week, the last time a guy led the league in assists, Maceo, and won a title was Magic.
Yeah.
Because you can post Magic up at 6'9", and he can hit cutters. You can spray the ball out on the perimeter to shooters.
Yeah.
Most point guards that lead the league in assists don't win titles because the defense can stack up on you. Right? Because they know you got to make the decision, right? So when you look at his shooting ability, he's also able to play with another dominant wing because he can get off the ball and make a shot. Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, those were the things that I liked about him. Now, you know, I can tell you that even as I liked him, did I think he was going to be an all-star in year two? I can't tell you that. Right? You know, I can't tell you that. You know, I would be lying if I said that. Yeah. You know, because most of these guys come out and they're not ready. So any of these guys being all-stars in year one or year two is probably a surprise for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you that, Maceo, but I liked him. I liked him a lot. And because of that, and I felt like when I was with the Suns, if we drafted him, we could put him with Devin and they could play off of each other.
Oh, yeah. Ooh,
right?
yeah.
Now, they can play off of each other.
Yeah.
Now, defensively, right, we're going to have to figure some stuff out.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Defensively, we're going to have to figure some stuff out. Guy, the way that I look at it, and I said this to you before, brother, the way that I look at this thing when I'm scouting is like, and rightfully so, people are looking at Trey's defense and asking questions about that. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But when a guy is that skilled and does and fabricates and initiates that much offense, dude, I don't know how much energy I want you burning up trying to guard people.
Boy,
right?
Let me tell you something. Funny you say that. It was a stretch where Lloyd Pierce kind of got that question every day. And Lloyd Pierce finally, he kind of political first, so he finally was like, listen, everybody, relax. What you see Trey do offensively makes up, listen, we can cover back down there.
That's
because he can get everywhere on the floor with the ball, his passing and his shooting, and I can forgive him on that end of the floor. Like, I'm not going to go into time. I'll be like, Trey, play. I'm not going to do that. So, to your point.
Exactly. You're asking, man, if this dude was, Patrick Beverly defensively, he'd be the greatest point guard of all time.
Yeah.
Right? and it's like, Pat Bev is who Pat Bev has to be because that's how he's got to be in the league.
That's the only way he's going to be in the league.
There you go. Right? So, you know what I'm saying, man? So, offensively, he can't do what Trey does. Right? So with that being said, I just think exactly to what Coach Pierce said, like when that guy is doing what he's doing offensively, and the other thing too that people don't talk about is they don't give as much run or as much burn to as they should when they discuss this, Mace, is like the point, not in terms of star power, because there was a time when Magic, GP, Jason Kidd, John Stockton, Isaiah Thomas were all in the league at the same time. Not in terms of star power, but in terms of Tim Hardaway, right? In terms of depth, this is the deepest that the point guard position has been in the history of the NBA.
Yeah.
Right? So there are no off nights at that position, right? So with that being said, Maceo, ain't none of these point guards shutting down the other one, man.
No.
Because they're too good, right?
Good. The last game we had before COVID-19 was Memphis and Atlanta. That was the last game I covered. Boy, Ja and Trey on the floor together. Oh.
It's a basketball point guard dream, man. Right? And now I'll tell you this with Ja, and I'll go on record with saying this. And I wish my friend who is Ja's cousin can attest to this. I was out early on Ja. This early. So his freshman year at Murray State, I went down there to go to scout practice. I went because we're out looking at practices, right? The second practice of the year, his freshman year, I was at their practice because I was down there going to see a couple of other guys because they had another guard named Jonathan Stark who was the player of the year in Ohio Valley. So I was going down there to ascertain or not if this guy is an NBA caliber player.
Okay.
So I saw their second practice of the year. Flew into Nashville, drove 2 hours to Richmond, Kentucky. Right? And I wrote in my report, Jonathan Stark is a really good player. Wrote all my report about him. Then I wrote my report about Ja. And I said, this is the cat that we need to really, really be looking at.
Wow.
2 practices in.
Freshman year. So he's off the ball, right? Because John, man, and I'm looking at this dude and I'm like, man, this dude here. Now, having said that, right, I had him. So having said that, we would go back to our meetings, our scouting meetings, and I'd be like, yeah, man, y'all need to get on this train and get on this one quick, right? Right.
And so, to the point where, some of the people in our meetings like, who is Ja Morant? I'm like, you'll know, right? Now, having said that, right? Having said that, again, did I see this? No, I didn't see this.
Right.
Right. But But dude, man, like, you know, but I knew that 2 practices in that this is an NBA caliber. I would take this guy in the first round as a freshman right now, right? And did I know he was going to be the 2nd pick in the draft? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
A year later, you know, but yeah, man, like that position, you know, there was a time when, like, a couple years ago, when it was like 8 or 10 top level point guards were out at the same time. It was like Derrick Rose, Rondo. I mean, it was like 8. It's a couple years ago.
I remember.
And part of the reason is because, again, man, there are no off nights at that position, right? Like Oklahoma City has 3. One guy that y'all had in Atlanta, Schroeder.
I miss Dennis, man. I miss Dennis.
Dennis.
I miss Dennis.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chris Paul, right?
Yeah.
So it is that position, man. Like is so. I just say that, you know, with respect to Trey, you ain't locking down anybody at that spot, man.
Nah, you're not.
You just not. You just not. So those are the things I like about Trey. Dude, you know what I would ask myself when we were scouting him was, we just have to see if he is competitive enough to try. If he is,
and he actually is. So man, that's spot on. That's spot on.
You know.
Spot on. So now we got to close as we come to the end of here. We got to go last dance, man. Listen, the end of episode 7. I was telling somebody else this. That's going to be used in every sport. Jordan, last 2 minutes of the last dance. Were you like me? Did you get chills hearing him talk like that?
I did, man. And I did, because it's, you know, again, from playing, you understand that sacrifice and those feelings and all of that stuff that goes into it. And people, again, don't understand or appreciate what it takes to be on that level, the focus, and what you give up, right? And all of that was coming to a head in what he was giving up, and the sacrifice, and all of the early mornings, and being away from your kids. And, you know, when Shannon Sharp talks about this a lot, right? He talks about his kids. He talked about it in his Hall of Fame speech. As daddy was preparing, I neglected my kids somewhat.
I neglected everything. Yeah.
That's what he said, right?
Yeah. And I think Mike was so emotional. I think this is the first time ever that he kind of just let that out. Did you
let it out? That? Yep. No, it was the first time that I saw him like that, right? Right. And you know, and you can tell when you see that, again, you can tell that as great as he wanted to be, you could tell that at that moment, some of the things that people said about him was getting to him. It got to him, right? And it certainly got to him. It affected him. And especially when you look at a guy that concentrated his whole career in terms of trying to do the right thing from a branding perspective, right?
All of that.
He tried to do the right thing. And all of those things came to a head in that particular moment. And
when he said, well, you know what? That's because you never won anything. I was like,
yeah. I mean, man, petty guy, right? Petty guy. It's like everybody that's because you ain't never won anything, right? It's so true, man.
In those clips to see they were running the suicide, and he's
first.
He first, like, I don't think, like I'm telling my nephew this, I don't think people understand, like, to get to way up there, like, everything matters. Like, most people hate practice. This guy practiced like it was game 7.
No question.
And I don't think people really understand, or people get that, and you had to be with him to understand.
You had to be with him to understand. And his teammates said it, right? They said, I understand him now.
Right.
There is a little bit of distance between us, you know, playing and now. And I think also, too, when he retired the first time, I think they understood him when he came back a little bit more, too.
They understood. Right.
Right. And I think he understood them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because now he's going into baseball, and when he went into baseball, he was like one of his teammates, an ancillary part of the success.
Right.
So
he wasn't the guy.
He wasn't the guy, right? So he understood them some, right? And then they understood him some more. And when you looked at that, you know, Bill and Will Perdue said it, you know, back then I may not have thought he was the greatest teammate, but now I'm like, man, like dude was a great teammate. And goes back to a point that we were discussing in terms of like when we talk about getting your team better or helping your teammates get better or making guys better on your team, that's always attributed to point guards.
Right.
Because they had a ball in their hands and they're controlling the tempo and they're doing all of these different things, right? So with that being said, you can play other positions and help your team get better. Right. And you can do it in different ways, right? And Mike and Kobe got their team and helped their team improve and help their teammates improve in different ways, using different measures. Man, I remember
it brought it out of them.
Oh man. I remember a story where like, and they got clips of this where like, you know, Kobe toward the end of his career when he wasn't practicing as much, the Lakers had just got blown out by somebody and he came down, right? And he was like, y'all MF is soft and all that. He went into practice and just started killing people, right? Killing people. The next night they played the Spurs, they beat them by like 25. You know, and so you want to say that dude didn't help guys get better, you know, and
he wasn't good teammates. Nah.
Right. And you know, like you look at Kwame Brown, like when Kwame was with the Lakers, he was playing some of the best basketball of his career with Kobe, right? Because
Kobe made that out of him.
He maxed him out with that accountability and he got it out of him, right? And again, you don't have to be a guy that the ball's got to be in my hands. I'm the point guard to help guys get better. And I can tell you this just as a player myself. I didn't understand that until toward the end of my career. Right.
But it all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
Because when I was playing, you know, and some of my high school teammates are on here, like I worked hard, I did all that. But I didn't bring guys along with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I was just doing it by myself. Right. And
in your mind, you like, well, they see me work, they gonna work. Nah, it don't work like that.
It don't work like that. It don't work like that, right? So I didn't do that.
Andrew Bynum too. Andrew Bynum was a guy who is this guy?
17 years old.
Kobe.
You know, if it weren't for injuries, right?
Yeah.
And so to your point, let's go back to Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Dwight Howard was so good that the Lakers were trying to clear the books to go get him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, and were willing to give up Bynum, who they developed and all that, to go get Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Right? Which was at that time, as good as Andrew Bynum was all-star, at that time it was considered an upgrade.
Yeah, he won Dwight Howard.
He won Dwight Howard.
Right.
Right. So, you know, people should recognize the greatness of the young Superman, Dwight Howard, right?
Your thoughts when Mike kind of, you know, again, petty God, he the petty God. The way he just kind of dismissed GP, I had no problem with the glove.
Just like
the glove.
Right. The defensive player of the year, one of the greatest, you know, on-ball defenders as a guard of all time, right?
Right.
And you look, and this dude scored as well, but he was, you know, you want to talk about Pat Bev, like GP wasn't a specialist. GP would guard, and then I'm also going to get you in the post, spin moves. I'm going to kill you efficiently.
All that.
All of that. Right? So, yeah, so for Mike to dismiss him like that, man, was just, it was funny. It was so funny watching that. And it also speaks to the fact that when you achieve that level of greatness that Mike had achieved, and you play at the level that you play at, and you're the ultimate offensive weapon, your mindset literally has to be. I remember I used to watch Come Fly With Me, before every game. Right? I told you I'm school of 23. I wore 23. Yeah. My teammates can attest to this, right? I thought I was him, right? And so when I used to watch Come Fly With Me, and before they got to the highlight package, when I would get hyped watching him in his moves, right? And there was one, Mace, that I got to bring up, the one where they were playing the Hawks, man, and he had, right?
He did Cliff Evanston, yeah.
And he went.
I was sitting behind the house bench when he did.
And then Oak went and pointed at somebody, right? Like, so I used to watch this and get hyped. And the point is tying it to Gary Payton. Before they were setting up that highlight package and Come Fly With Me, Mike used to say, the point is, when I get the ball, I control the game, I control the clock, I control the guy that's guarding me. I can essentially play him like a puppet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you play at that level, that's your mentality. Nobody can deal with me. And
nobody.
And honestly, I don't think, man, like, would GP made him work? Absolutely. Because the thing I liked about GP in that series is the thing that I liked about John Starks, even though I was school of 23. One of the things I respected about John Starks is he didn't respect Michael to the point where you're going to paralyze me from competing.
No back down. No back down for John Starks.
Does that make sense, Mace?
Yeah,
right?
No back
like,
down. Nah.
You the best, you the guy, but tonight you're going to have to show me that you better than me.
Bruh, I'm going to push you. I'm gonna give you everything I got. Now, you're not gonna just come give me 40. If you give me 40, it's because you earned them 40.
That's exactly right. And I respect that. I respect that, man. And, you know, it's like I said, I know you better than me, but you're going to show me tonight, right? Yeah. And
that's why I'm interested to see how this is going to close at 9-10, because Reggie Miller really thought he was going to put Mike to bed.
He did. He did. Yeah. You know, going back to what we were talking about with Reggie, you know, being a skinny guy playing in that contact era, people looking at his body thought he was soft. And dude made multiple plays throughout his career where he was making contact with guys. In that game 6, I'm sure they're going to talk about it, in 98, in the Last Dance season, he pushed off of Mike and made a game winner in game 6 when he pushed Mike. Right? Yeah, right? So he did. So, yeah, man. And I think people really don't appreciate Reggie, because not only is there a lot of guys in that era that got overlooked, but Reggie is double because he played the same position as Mike. Right?
He was the 2.
He was a 2. So, man, people don't realize how good that dude was, man. And man, Reggie
one of them killers that we talk about.
It ain't no question. There is no question about that, man. There is no question, Mace. So, yeah, I you know, I remember watching that, and I was worried. Right? Like, oh, man, like, I was worried. You know, I was certainly worried, especially riding that momentum and getting into that game 7 after he made that game-winning shot. You know, I thought they would come in, and this is going to be a dogfight, you know.
He was ready to put Mike to sleep. So next week, we're gonna because it's the last day, we're gonna re-review the Last Stand. So kind of your good, the bad, just what you loved about it, and I'm gonna have another player for you to kind of like, well, I was wrong, and you kind of give me your thoughts about it, man. Listen, I'm loving this, man. Same time next week, we going in, man. I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, brother. Stay healthy, stay safe. Again,
yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
Put my mask on right now. I gotta go make a run. Put my mask on. I'm not fooling with them.
No, don't do that, man. And then also, too, as we're talking about players, I also, too, brother, want to talk about players that let's make sure that we keep this going. And I talk about players that I was wrong about, too, right? Like, because
this is what we're doing.
Man, it's no doubt. It's no doubt because there are just so many players that, you know, we can all sit on our stage and be like, man, I was right about this guy. I was right about that guy.
I was right. Listen, I was wrong.
No question.
If Trey run by this, Trey gonna send me a text like, you still.
No doubt, man. So no, I'm looking forward to it.
Same time next week, brother.
Yes, sir, brother. I
I'm gone.
appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
Okay.